Welcome back to my channel and happy Wednesday to all of you. I hope that you are enjoying your week so far. I had hoped to come on today and share with you a flip through of several folios that I have completed with some papers from my stash and bases that I have created for other tutorials, but those folios have gone on to their new home. So instead I'm going to be sharing with you this project. So this card and I have been on a bit of a journey today. I had a very specific design in my head and I really struggled to incorporate all of the elements that I wanted to use a fun design, creating my own background. So I thought I would share with you the process of how I worked through those struggles and came up with a project that I really love. So if you are interested in that, make sure you stick with me and we'll make this card together. And I'm going to pick a beautiful dove gray cardstock as all of the matting for my layers. So here is the overall non-contrasting base layer. I'm gonna top it with my raised panel section and I went for that beautiful diagonal plaid. For this section I'm going to pop that up on a spacer so that I can begin to build some dimension, and this is just going to be inset enough to see that beautiful background just a little bit all the way around. The next section is going to be my dovetail section. This is a banner and I cut two of the same shape and I cut them and then I rejoined them so that I could have that dovetail effect on both ends, and I've got this measured so that it will stretch the full height of that inset panel. That also has a nice stitching effect on it. So here is where we went off plan a little. My intention was to use these beautiful hexagon nested shapes that I picked up from Gina Marie Designs, and so my original thought was that I would cut two different sizes, and so I've got them here. I picked a pretty wood grain pattern because I thought that would be kind of a sweet, more country inspired vibe. And so what I thought I would do, I would have my larger die cuts here, and then I could come in and add my secondary size so that it would fill that space in a little bit better and be a little bit more interesting. And then I could also kind of stretch the amount of space I was filling with those die cuts. The problem with that was when I started to layer on the embellishments and sentiment is I was covering up too much of these smaller hexagons, and so it wound up to be, rather than a pretty graphic shape, it was kind of a blob, and so that wasn't really the design aesthetic I was going for. I think this would work really well combining the two different sizes if you were going to have more of a clean and simple card. That way you could really notice all the different edges and shapes would be very apparent. If you cover them though, they really lose their effectiveness as a graphic design. So I took out the two smaller ones and I decided to replace those with the same size. So I also decided to pop these up on spacers as well so that we can continue to build that dimension. And I want to position these more or less like a honeycomb would be, so they're offset just a little bit. And so this is going to give me all those nice angles, and the spacing in between is going to be that punchy graphic background that I was hoping for. I originally had planned to stagger these and have some on the card base without a spacer, but after I positioned them all, I decided that I did really just like to have them all on one layer. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these to my card base, and then we can continue on with the layering. So while I'm positioning this last hexagon, I will also share that I had some struggles with the layout of the top layers here because there were so many pieces that they were constantly shifting around while I was trying to preview the specific elements that I wanted to add to see where the best placement would be. So I suggest getting just a roll of blue tape. It's a low tack masking tape and tacking these pieces in because it really took me quite a while to sort of get an idea where all these elements were eventually going to wind up because I had to continually reposition them. So moving on to the embellishments, I just have a very simple sentiment that is stamped and die cut. I've got some flowers here, and then I found this sheet in my stash of Minte papers. This is Better Times, and it has a nice variety of pretty butterflies in different colors and sizes. So I cut a couple of those out, and I'm going to incorporate those along with my flowers. So these came from Little Birdie Crafts. I just chose 2 different shades of the same pretty blue tone, and then I've incorporated a couple of smaller ones as well. The leaves that are here are the ones that originally came on these flowers. I pulled them off and repositioned them just so that they would be a little bit better shape for this size, for this type of card. And then I did incorporate that pretty netting and some loopy twine bows. I've also got beautiful coordinating satin ribbon here. This is from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I know all of my layers are going to wind up exactly where I want. So another issue that I had as I was working along was the placement of my embellishments seemed to mask some of the shapes, and I knew that was going to happen for certain parts of it, but I had to find a way to get all of the details that I wanted added and a balance as well. So I decided to pop my sentiment up on a spacer, and I'm just going to adhere the larger butterfly behind it so that I can still have it on the card, but it didn't take over as much space. So I'll just pull my spacers tape off of here, and I'll position that butterfly right on the back of this before I add it so that I know it will land exactly where I want it to be. The sentiment itself is not too big, but we do have to leave room for all of the lettering to be visible. So I want to just kind of position this a little bit to the left, a little bit in, so that not too much of that butterfly will be hidden behind the sentiment, but enough of it will be showing so that once I get that in position, you see I don't want to hide too much of that word. So I'll just go ahead and press this into place now, and I'm just gonna position this so that the lower levels will support this sentiment strip. And I'll just go ahead and lay this in place. as I'm working along so that I know I can maintain my balance. So once you've got one big element in, you need to have another smaller one. And because I have a large flower arrangement here on the left, I want to bring one in up here as well. And of course I like to add some charms, and typically I would put these on and then hide the tail, the cut ends of the string under a vintage button. But for this project, I'm just going to add them and then cover those strings with my secondary flower arrangement so that I can have all those details and they will all fit. So let's cut the excess off and then I'll add these flowers. So you see we've got our balance happening here. Tuck in a little bit of foliage while I'm at it so that I can hide those tails behind the flowers as well. So I think this maintains enough of that shape so that we don't lose sight of the fact that that is a hexagon. And so let's just go ahead and add our flowers now too. Pull this closer so that I can get a better view over top so that I know that I'm not going to be covering up those words. Okay, so now I want to position my second butterfly, and then I can just tack that on with a little bit of hot glue between the wings. If you can hear what sounds like water running, that is snow melting off our roof. We finally got over freezing today, and so we're having a little bit of melting runoff. Okay, so the last element I want to include are some sequins. I happen to have some pretty blue ones that coordinate really well, and so I'm going to add these with my Tombow. And I like a grouping that has 3 on one side and 2 on the other so that we can maintain our balance. We'll put the other 2 here at the top, and a little Tombow will fix these in place very well. So that's it for my project today. I hope this inspires you to not give up easily on a design if it isn't working out just exactly as you had intended. I sometimes want to add additional items. Sometimes removing something will help all the elements fit. And then sometimes if you change the orientation of your projects, that will help all of the elements fall into place. And then you will be happy with your project like I am with this card. So if you enjoyed this short tutorial, let me know in the comments and give me a big thumbs up. You can find links for all our social media sites in the description below. And if you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.